What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Khamzat Chimaev says nobody wants to fight him. After Khamzat Chimaev's disastrous fight week weigh-in debacle leading up to UFC 279 saw him ultimately capture a first-round submission win over Kevin Holland, the streaking contender found himself in a difficult position. With his 10-pound weigh-in miss, Chimaev's status as a welterweight contender was put into question. As a result, it seemed as though his next fight would likely take place at middleweight. Fast forward to October, and UFC President Dana White was responding to rumors of a #1 contender fight between Chimaev and Colby Covington. Although there was tons of hype surrounding this fight, there's been little movement on it since. With no updates on this bout, everyone is eagerly awaiting news on who Chimaev will fight next. In a recently released vlog, he revealed that the UFC tried to get him 4 fights in 4 different countries with different opponents, with each one being turned down. Currently, he's hoping to target a March return to the Octagon in Vegas. However, he isn't so sure who his opponent would be. According to their schedule, the UFC has 2 pay-per-view cards booked in March. The first is the March 4th UFC 285 pay-per-view card, slated for Vegas. The second is the UFC 286 card, slated for London's O2 Arena on March 18th.
I'm the next for the title, so who is guys gonna fight? Alex Pereira, he has 6-1 record. He lost. I never lost in my life, you know. And he lost against the guy the guy is not in the UFC as well. So UFC don't want it, the guy don't want it, you know, what I gonna do? I just wanna fight. Give me somebody. If the guys run away from me, just give me somebody. I'm ready.
With no word on who the streaking contender could face in March, we turn to you. Play matchmaker in the comment section below and let us know who you want to see Chimaev face next. Charles Oliveira opens up on loss to Islam Makhachev. When Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev stepped into the octagon to fight for the lightweight championship at UFC 280, the former champion just couldn't get it going. Between failing to find his rhythm on the feet and struggling on bottom position in the grappling exchanges, things weren't going Do Bronx's way in Abu Dhabi. Things then went from bad to worse for Oliveira in the second round as he was rocked and submitted. After the fight, Makhachev was ultimately booked to defend his belt against the pound-for-pound king, Alexander Volkanovski, in the new year. With Oliveira eager to take some time off, many wondered just what the former champion's next move would be. During a recent interview, he addressed the loss, explaining that despite fighting in hostile territory, he didn't feel any pressure going into the fight, and Makhachev was simply just the better fighter. When it comes to a rematch, the former champion weighed in on a potential showdown with Makhachev in the future, saying, "I wouldn't change anything in a rematch. I know how much I trained. As far as the fight goes, what can I say other than that Islam was better than me? I wouldn't change the camp nor the weight cut. I wouldn't change absolutely anything. I don't know exactly what happened, but Islam was better than me on that night." With an inevitable return to the Octagon on tap for 2023, it'll be interesting to see who the former champion matches up with in his return fight. Following a big victory by Dustin Poirier over Michael Chandler, many began to call for a rematch between Oliveira and Poirier. With no shortage of options for Do Bronx, we want to hear from you. Who do you want to see the former champion face when he returns to the Octagon? Give us your thoughts in the comment section below. Sean Strickland condemns MMA community in wake of Stephan Bonnar's death. Controversial middleweight Sean Strickland is once again in the headlines as a result of comments he made online in the wake of UFC Hall of Famer Stephan Bonner's death. The famed Ultimate Fighter Season 1 finalist tragically passed away this week, leaving the fight community stunned as it mourned a legend of the sport. In the wake of the news, Strickland took to social media to condemn the MMA community for how it reacted to Bonner's death. The way he sees things, tons of fans, fighters, and coaches have all posted photos of themselves with the Hall of Famer. However, many of those people weren't there for him during his time of need. Strickland referenced Bonner's opioid addiction that recently saw him in a frightening standoff with hospital staff and police officers after he tried to fill a prescription for opioids to treat a back injury last year. At the same time, Strickland pointed out that Bonner's gym, like many, went under during COVID-19 lockdowns.
Oh, that like after he died, you post pictures of him in support and all this. Like, well, this man was losing his shit. Where were you? And I'm not saying you had to be there for him, but you weren't there for him then. Don't be there for him now, because now he doesn't need it.
After footage of his standoff with Las Vegas PD surfaced, Bonnar received support from members of the fight community like Diego Sanchez and Mark Coleman. It's also important to note that the UFC has reported that his death was the result of presumed heart complications. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Judge rules Conor McGregor can call Artem Lobov a rat. The legal battle between former teammates Conor McGregor and Artem Lobov saw a judge hand down yet another preliminary ruling this week in their ongoing legal saga. After the Russian Hammer tried to add defamation onto his lawsuit as a result of McGregor calling him a rat on social media, it was the former two-division champion who got the last laugh. According to reports, a judge ruled against Lobov in the matter, stating that nobody in their right mind would take McGregor's insult of being a rat as proof that Lobov was an informant. McGregor took to Twitter to celebrate the small win, tweeting some advice to Lobov in the process. Lobov, of course, is hoping that a judge will rule in his favor down the line when a determination is read in regard to his claim to 5% ownership of McGregor's proper No. 12 Irish whiskey brand. According to Lobov, McGregor told him years back that 5% of the company is his, something that Lobov says allegedly has witnesses ready to back up. There's been no word as to who the two unnamed witnesses could be, which could make things interesting. If the two men are a part of McGregor's team at SBG Ireland, the former champion is, of course, preparing to make his highly anticipated return to the octagon in the new year. Currently, it sounds as though he'll be forced to go through 6 months of testing before being declared eligible, meaning it could be a while before we see him return in 2023. When he does, Lobov certainly won't be helping him prepare. And now for our breaking news story of the day. Pat Barry set to participate in grappling match on same card as Rose Namajunas. Former UFC veteran Pat Barry is set to compete in a grappling match on the same card as thug Rose Namajunas on December 30th. Barry's management team confirmed that he would be competing at the Fury Pro Grappling event, which will be broadcast on UFC Fight Pass. According to the report, the former UFC veteran will be competing against Jonathan Pettit, a light heavyweight fighter with an 0-1 professional MMA record. Currently training out of Iowa, Pettit put together a 3-3 amateur record before becoming pro. Although Barry has far more experience than Pettit, it's no secret that he struggled with grapplers throughout his career. Of his 7 professional losses, nearly half of them were submission losses. Barry last competed in combat sports back in 2015 when he won a split decision in a kickboxing match. The win advanced his recent kickboxing record to 2-1 after he stepped away from the sport in 2007 to pursue MMA. After being released from the UFC in 2013 in the midst of a 2-fight skid, Barry then made the transition back to kickboxing. Rose Namajunas will also be competing on the card against fellow UFC fighter Jillian Robertson, who holds the record for having the most submissions out of any woman in the UFC. The matchup will be a tough one for Namajunas, given that Robertson competes in the women's flyweight division, giving her a favorable size advantage in this matchup. The card will also feature several other notable UFC fighters. Clay Guida will compete against Chase Hooper, while Joe Pyfer will compete against Eric Anders. In addition, Ovince St. Preux will also be competing against Andre Petrosky. With a stacked night of grappling on tap for December 30th, it'll be interesting to see how things play out on the mat. Give us your predictions for the card in the comments below. Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to see more videos just like this. See you next time.